Joining me now is Wall Street criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Vinoo. Thank you. Good to see you again. Thanks for coming on. You've been on both sides of this, prosecution and defense. We've seen the defense for former President Trump start the day. What has stood out to you about how Todd Blanche has approached this?
From what I'm reading, I think he's doing a good job. I think the case is problematic for the prosecution from a proof point of view. And there's no doubt in my mind that the prosecution is looking for a conviction at all costs. They have put forth to the judge a theory that the jurors can find Trump guilty even if they don't agree on what the underlying crime was that he was supposed to be concealing. Now, is it state election law? Is it federal election law? Is it tax law, New York State tax law? So in press conferences, the district attorney, Alvin Bragg, has said that this is a federal election interference case or an election interference case. But according to the ruling made by Judge Merchan, at the request of the prosecution, they can find him guilty even if they don't agree on what that is. That creates a whole pickle on appeal. So I think Blanche, from what I'm understanding, he's addressing it. He's called it 34 pieces of paper that really do not amount to anything that otherwise would have been misdemeanors if you were actually guilty. But they have to prove Trump's criminal intent. Well, how can you fight that as a defense lawyer if you don't know what you're arguing against? This is a problem for him, for Todd Blanche and the Trump team, which will likely result in a conviction at this stage. But on appeal, I think Trump's chances are pretty good.
And the defense needs, ultimately what could come out of this is you have a conviction, you have him being found not guilty, but also there's the possibility that one juror doesn't agree with everyone else. If you're a defense attorney, how do you go into closing arguments looking for that?
You know, that's a great question, and it's one of these things that we always look for. One of the maxims of the criminal defense bar is that it's a good day if you get to walk out with your client. And let me put that in perspective here. In state court, in New York, and this is different from federal court judges. In federal court, if you're tried for a white-collar crime, which this is a white-collar case, if you've been out on bail, judges let you stay out until sentencing, and if they're going to sentence you to jail, they'll give you time to self-report to the jail. The default position of New York State court judges, regardless of offense, is that if you're found guilty, you get incarcerated immediately. I mean, what a story that would be, and it's something that I think will likely happen in this case, because I think Judge Merchan wants to be known as the judge who has put Trump behind bars, and the district attorney has basically guaranteed his reelection by bringing this case. So as for Blanche and his team and what they're going to do, they just better hope and pray that somebody in the island of Manhattan is secretly wearing a MAGA T-shirt underneath and has some MAGA underwear, because short of that, I think there's a high likelihood of Trump getting convicted.
So we have 1 minute left, and on the prosecution side, they say they're going to take 4.5 hours for closing arguments. Most of us who just watch Law & Order, they do it in about 2 minutes, right? but in the real world, why does it take so long to do a closing argument? Because I think of a juror, the attention span of most people is that short period of time. What do you do during that much time?
So part of it for the prosecution is making sure they cover all their bases. Do they need to take 4.5 hours? Absolutely not. And that's just bad trial lawyering on their part. You know, I'm not sure how long Blanche is taking. He shouldn't really take more than an hour. This isn't that complicated case. You want to keep jurors' attention on you and focused and make them feel strong and not be bored or dozing off. 4.5 hours, you're going to have some jurors dozing off. It's just inevitable. And I think that what they should do, but it really doesn't matter because they're likely to get their conviction, is just keep it short and simple. That's the rule of KISS, which clearly the DA is not following.
All right, we'll see what happens once it gets to the jury. Wall Street criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Vinoo, thanks for joining us.